Welcome back to the channel. We're back here in the seat and we are going to be talking yet again, as we always do, about Wrexham Football Club. Today I have got a very interesting topic. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about the future of strikers Paul Mullin and Ollie Palmer in today's video. Will they stay at the club beyond this summer? Do they have a role to play in our championship season coming up? There is a lot to talk about, and we've also got some interesting transfer news that I'm going to be bringing you. Before we get further in today's video, if you're looking for all the best Wrexham AFC content on YouTube, transfer news, just news relating to the football club, there'll be plenty of it of course over the summer with transfers and preparing for our championship campaign. So like I said, if you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the red subscribe button. Let's go for 350 likes, and without further ado, let's get talking first on some transfer news. In football journalist Alan Nixon's recent transfer column, it's reported that League Two side Gillingham are in talks to sign Wrexham defender Will Boyle on a permanent transfer. Now, it's a move that was inevitable given the fact that Boyle had only played 3 games for Wrexham in the past 13 months. And if we're looking at this from a Will Boyle point of view, I think it's a very good move for him, because Gillingham, we all know, are quite a big club for League Two. I think they're definitely punching well below their weight. They should easily be a League One side. They've got the infrastructure behind the scenes, they've got the fan base, they've got a good ownership group that have invested into the squad, but they've massively underperformed the past 2 or 3 seasons, you could say, and I think they were definitely aiming to get promoted. But you're looking at this from Will Boyle, it's a very good opportunity, like I said, to play in front of a good fan base, a club which will no doubtedly want to put the wrong right this season and go for promotion. And you know, he's going to get into that squad, he's going to be playing regularly, you can imagine, because he was sort of a regular at the back end of our League Two season for us, and I still do think he could do a very good job in the back line for a League Two side. Take Gillingham for example, I think it's the perfect example. A mid-table side, I think Will Boyle being the left-sided centre-back could easily slot in there. 29 years old, 2 promotions to League One under his belt, so I think experience could be a huge and important factor as to why Gillingham wants to sign him. And if you're looking at this, like I said, 29 years old, Will Boyle, left-footed centre-back, 2 promotions to League One. He's played in the Championship, he's played in League One, he's played in League Two. A lot of clubs could be looking at this thinking it could be a very good signing, because you know, you could probably get him on quite a cheap fee because Wrexham are looking to offload him. So Gillingham are in the front runners to go and sign Will Boyle, and I think it would be a good signing for them. It would be a good move for Boyle, for both parties as well. And I think his time at Wrexham was a bit poor because of the inconsistency in his performances, of course, at the back end of that League Two season. We all remember it, and I think it's a reason why he didn't play more regularly going forward. The red cards in the big games, you think to MK Dons, you think to Newport County, and yeah, they just didn't really help him and didn't really benefit his, you know, possible game time in a Wrexham shirt. We saw glimpses of a good defender in Will Boyle. Of course, we needed that left-footed centre-back to obviously accompany Tom O'Connor on that left-hand side, and we brought Will Boyle in. Yeah, there were some good performances, but like I said, inconsistency is a massive reason as to why he didn't play more for us. And looking now on the transfer saga, you could say, regarding Lewis Travis at Wrexham. Now, yesterday we heard Travis is reportedly waiting for Wrexham to make an official bid, as Blackburn Rovers are struggling to tie him down on a new contract. It's reported Travis was offered a new 3-year contract by Rovers, but has yet to accept it, as he was wanting to get that official bid in from Wrexham. But we've seen earlier today, apparently according to sources, Wrexham have pulled out of the race to sign Lewis Travis, and Derby County now are in the front running to sign Lewis Travis. So yesterday, I've got on my notes here, it seems like the reports are true, and it seems like Lewis Travis is keen on making that move up to North Wales. But just today we've seen former manager John Eustace at Blackburn Rovers, of course he played under Eustace at Blackburn, has now shown his interest in Travis, and the sources are of course very verified, but there's not been much news on this, you know, in other sources coming out. It's all been quite behind the scenes and quite quiet on Lewis Travis, and to have those 2 reports come out of the blue in the space of less than, I'd say, 20 hours, yeah, it does slightly make you question, is this true? Is Phil Parkinson still in for Lewis Travis, or have, like the sources say, have we completely just come out of the race to sign him, as we have failed to possibly agree the right fee for Lewis Travis, possibly on the wages as well. We heard he apparently wants £25,000 to £30,000 a week, and if he's only in it for the money, Phil Parkinson, of course, we know, players do not pass the dickhead test, and if Lewis Travis doesn't pass that in terms of wanting that big wage, then good on Phil Parkinson, good on the club as well for pulling out of this deal. But you're looking at this, it's a very good signing for Derby County if they are to get him. A club that just survived last season. Travis, he's a great player on the ball, 250 plus championship appearances across the way, 2 promotions as well to the Championship and to the Premier League. I would have loved this signing, but like I said, if there is something behind the scenes that says Lewis Travis is just in this for the money, then yeah, I'm going to say no on this one. But I would have loved Travis in our midfield this season, because we saw last year he captained a team that nearly got to the playoffs. He's a good player on the ball, good passer, breaks the play up really well, sits just in front of the defence really well, and would have been a great addition. But if we've pulled out of the race, then we just go on to our next target, and I'm sure Phil Parkinson has got a very long list of those. So some more transfer news that we have got in the past 24 hours, which doesn't really have a lot of backing to it, but reports have been circling online that's saying that Wrexham are interested in 2 Sheffield Wednesday midfielders, Stuart Armstrong and Barry Bannan. Now, 2 players that have had very good playing careers, represented their countries, and have had valuable experience, of course, along the way. 32 years old, Stuart Armstrong, and 35 years old Barry Bannan. So 2 experienced midfielders that are apparently on Phil Parkinson's radar ahead of a possible move this summer. I believe Stuart Armstrong has been offered a new contract by Sheffield Wednesday but has turned it down. Likewise with Barry Bannan, but I don't think he's officially turned it down yet. So 2 players that are very open to leave Sheffield Wednesday, of course, with this situation that is going on there. Obviously, Chansiri not paying the players, and I can't blame them if they all want to leave the football club, because it is an absolute mess going on at Sheffield Wednesday at the minute. But if we're looking at Barry Bannan now, I believe it's his great-granddad Tommy Bannan actually spent 4 years at Wrexham in the early 50s, scoring 60 goals in just over 150 games. Bannan actually as well scored on his debut, and it was against Chester, and in 2005 Tommy Bannan was inducted into the Supporters Association Hall of Fame at Wrexham. So if those ties could possibly help get the signing of Barry Bannan over the line, then that'll be a massive, massive coup. Of course, we've seen Barry Bannan over the years, a fantastic footballer, and I'm surprised he has spent this long at Sheffield Wednesday, because I think he could easily be playing for a better club. His quality on the ball, just his experience, his game knowledge as well. So it'd be something that we'd really value in that midfield. Whether we could get him as well on a good price. He's 35 years old. A lot of you will be watching this wanting to rip your eyeballs out here in the fact that we're after a 35-year-old midfielder. But if you're any EFL fan, you'll know over the years, and still Barry Bannan is a very good player on the ball. And if it was a 1-2 year contract to help us survive and possibly get that comfortable mid-table position, and if we get him on a good fee, good wages, then I don't see why we wouldn't go in for Barry Bannan, because he's a very good footballer. Likewise with Stuart Armstrong, their experience is something we could really do with in that midfield. So the topic that you all clicked on this video to see, we're talking about Paul Mullin and we're talking about Ollie Palmer. We've all seen the documentary episode by now, I'm sure, with Ollie Palmer and Paul Mullin addressing them being left out of the squad for the second half of the League One season. Now, in my opinion, it has been so interesting to see not only the 2 players' reactions, Phil Parkinson say, but the reaction of the Wrexham fans on social media after this documentary episode did air, of course, on Disney+. It was a very fascinating watch. It was great to get that insight as to what was really going on behind the scenes, because we all know something happened. Of course, it was quite messy in terms of them just being completely left out the squad. 1 week they're playing both against Stevenage, next they're just completely out the squad. And I think it was really interesting to see on Palmer's behalf that Parky really wanted him to go out on loan for the second half of the season, but Palmer said he wanted to stay at Wrexham and he wanted to be a part of this journey that could possibly see us get promoted to the Championship at the time of filming. We did go on to see that, and Palmer didn't play a role from when that phone call was had to his dad to the end of the season. So I do think that was very interesting. But however, in my opinion, I think if you're being left out of a squad where there's 7 substitutes, likewise with Paul Mullin, and you are not even in this squad for the remaining, whatever it was at least 15, 18 games of the season, then I do think Ollie Palmer is going to leave, given the fact as well we're likely to sign, in my opinion, 2 to 3 more strikers, and I think next season in the Championship it's all but guaranteed that he's not going to play a part in the matchday squad, let alone the starting 11 next season. So in my opinion, I think that was very interesting to watch the documentary. But you're looking at his age as well. He's 33 years old. It'll be very hard for him to have that good pre-season and regain his place in the starting 11. It was good to hear as well how much he loved the club, But you're looking at this thinking, we can't have a player who's on a very good wage just training like he was for the second half of that season. He's likely to be on a very good amount of money, but we know Palmer's not in it for the money. He's obviously loves the club. He's been here for 3.5 years, but from a financial point of view and the club's point of view, we can't be paying a player for them just to train the whole week and not even play a minute in a Wrexham shirt come the match day. So I do think Ollie Palmer is going to leave, and like Parky said, we need strikers who are going to score goals, and unfortunately I can't see Palmer, suddenly becoming that striker that scores all those goals for us in the Championship. I think he's still got a few more seasons in him, don't get me wrong, and I do think there'll be a lot of League 2 teams and some League 1 teams that will inquire to Wrexham this summer about the possible signing of Ollie Palmer. But I think it's quite ironic as well. Parky said in his interview that, you need strikers that are going to score goals, and who is the man that replaces Ollie Palmer? It's Jay Rodriguez, and in my opinion, I'm going to say it, I think Ollie Palmer had a much bigger impact than Jay Rodriguez when he did play in the starting 11. So that was very interesting to hear on that front. Who would you prefer? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would you prefer Ollie Palmer in the starting 11 or Jay Rodriguez? Of course, Jay Rodriguez came in for that massive £15,000 a week, a lot of expectation with the Premier League experience, and is probably one of our worst signings of the season. And that's me not trying to be harsh or anything, but it was the truth. A lot of people can say flick the switch towards the final few games of the season, but the truth is Rodriguez, for what we were expecting and for the wage he's on, was extremely poor, and I do think Ollie Palmer had a much bigger impact in the starting 11. So it will be interesting to see what happens with Jay Rodriguez as well come the transfer window. And talking now on Super Paul Mullin. Now I think it's a very different situation with Mullin, of course, with him being 3 years younger than Ollie Palmer, and with Paul Mullin as well also scoring 110 goals in just over 170 games for Wrexham. Parky has a big decision to make with Paul Mullin, but we've seen on social media all the fans are kind of saying the same. They're all saying that they think he'll leave this summer, and I hate to say it, but my head is sort of just going towards the fact that we're going to see that headline, Paul Mullin leaves Wrexham Football Club for whoever. Now it's a massive shame because we've seen the spinal surgery last summer seems to have indirectly ended his career at Wrexham. He missed pre-season and returned 3 games into the season against Reading off the bench, and didn't actually get his first full start in a Wrexham shirt in the League 1 season until the 9th game in against Crawley Town. So he had a completely missed pre-season. He was thrown straight into the deep end, and I think it is hard for Paul Mullin, a player like that who's had such a big surgery. Of course, it was an injury that was affecting him for years, to just chuck him straight into the deep end and expect him to hit the ground running without, that 6 weeks training that all the players did have. I think it is quite hard because you're going into a harder league as well, and a lot of people are saying they don't think he was League 1 quality. Paul Mullin, we all know it, is by far League 1 quality. If he was fully fit, he would have scored goals in League 1. He just needed that full pre-season under his belt, and surgery is something we couldn't have helped. It was the better for him just as a person and for his body. He couldn't have carried on playing just for the fact he was scoring goals the season before. He had to have the surgery, and it is a shame that he did miss the pre-season because, like I said, I think if he would have stayed fully fit, he would have scored goals, and that's why part of me is thinking I want to see Mullin have this full pre-season, see what he can do to get up to full fitness, to get back up to, regular game speed, have those 3, 4, 5 pre-season games under his belt, get him firing again. He's still 30 years old, he's in the peak of his career now, and I think it is fair to say that he didn't look himself at all last season. Of course, he had those weeks within training with his squad, etc., but you were thrown straight into the deep end in some very high quality games in League 1. He scored some good goals across the way, don't get me wrong, but we didn't see any of Paul Mullin that we've seen, in the previous couple of years in the National League, in League 2. You don't get 30 goals and assists in League 2 and then in League 1 just completely flop it. There's got to be a reason, and I think that reason was down, of course, to his spinal surgery. So I do think, however, it's going to be substantially harder for Mullin to get his place back into the starting 11. Now we've gone up again to the Championship, which makes me think Parky might be looking at this thinking, it's time to offload these 2 club legends. Of course, we can't hold on to that sentimental value of keeping them just because of what they've done in the lower leagues. But I think for Mullin's sake, he'll want to go out now. He's 30 years old, like I said. He's in the prime of his career. He'll want to be playing regularly elsewhere, and I think he could definitely do a job at a lot of League 1 and League 2 clubs. It's going to be a very sad day if we see Paul Mullin leave this summer, because it's just mixed emotions, isn't it? It's mixed emotions because we've seen him score 110 goals. He's the best striker I've seen in my lifetime supporting Wrexham, but I think he'd be our starting striker now, and I think it all stemmed, of course, from that injury against Man United in pre-season. Paul Mullin would be Wrexham striker in the Championship now, scoring goals if it wasn't for these injuries. It's a massive, massive shame because he is going to go down as a club legend and probably at least top 3 strikers we've seen in the club's history. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Would you like to see Paul Mullin stay at Wrexham? My head is saying that Paul Mullin is going to leave Wrexham this summer, but my heart really wants to see him have that full pre-season under his belt. And you might call me delusional to think that Paul Mullin still could get in this start 11 and score goals, because you suddenly don't go from scoring 26 goals in a season, 40 odd goals in a season. Yes, it was lower leagues, but you don't lose that goal scoring touch. And we've seen his goal, on Boxing Day, that one goal of the season for us. You don't just suddenly lose that, and I think a full pre-season for Mullin could be beneficial. Whether he'll leave or whether he'll stay is another question. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So yeah, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure to drop a like, make sure to subscribe, do all that good stuff. If you'd like to support the channel further, it'll be in the description and it'll be in the comment section down below. But until the next one, take care guys, up the Championship Reds.